Okay, we're back for the third and last round of this draft. We are 1-1. We've got a lot of options here. Infiltrator Warden is kind of interesting. I think best is probably going to be War Charger and Warden. They both level up very well. And having a War Charger with additional attack is very nice since you can move around and apply it wherever it would be best suited. We'll see what my opponent plays, though. I may need to throw something in front of it or whatever. Delver is good, though. Maybe Delver is better. It's likely a 10-10 and it's all... I guess it's fairly close. I think I kind of want to try the Delver if my opponent lets me. We'll see. Rosenflagen. Okay, War Charger can trade on its own, or I can use a Warden to buff it. I'll definitely block. Do I want to buff it, or do I want to throw out a Delver? I think I'll throw out a Delver. Again, getting to play the Delver into a place where it's safe is pretty nice. Definitely going to play Savant here. Likely also Warden. I've been valuing Warden higher and higher lately. As you saw in the previous game, it can kind of come out of nowhere to either affect a trade hugely or just win the game. Poor dude, and I don't know if that's a guy in armor or a robot, but poor whatever. That's unfortunately going to trade. Savant can trade with Bruiser. And I could get +3/+3 off of strength and numbers, which is interesting, but I think it's better just to Matrix Warden, get some extra damage in, and trade there. Okay, yeah, I haven't been really impressed by a Flow Steel prototype. Maybe there's something there, but I don't know. I feel like Delver and Technician are much more reliable creatures. That alpha is interesting. I'm wondering if this opponent has jetpacks. Probably won't know until player level 3 because it's generally not worth wasting time on a jetpack unless you've got that huge of a creature. But or you can affect a trade or something. But all right, this is fine. The Technosmith is good for my opponent, but again, you know, on the defensive, you get to pick what trades happen a little better. So, gonna probably play something that can eat the Savant. Something with 5 toughness, maybe another Bruiser. Okay, Light Shield Patrol. Light Shield Patrol, if buffed, gets armor 2. So it's not amazing to throw the Technician in front of it just in case my opponent gets to buff it with armor. So I'm going to probably just play these 2 creatures to empty lanes. We're a little bit ahead on life, and both of the creatures that I played have higher attack than the Patrol anyway. So it feels like this is more likely to be good. All right. I like Technosmith and Patriarch here. Almost certainly just going to play those 2. Probably leveling Delver. Maybe Guardian, just because that's not bad. Guardian is good to receive a level 1 Patriarch buff, but again, probably just best to level aggressively. Especially since Technosmith at least gets a bit of a buff, even if it's not as impressive. I wonder a little bit if Delver was a reference to Delver of Secrets in Magic cards, just because it came out not that long after Delver and Magic did, and so there's so much overlap between you know, the people that make Stoneforge and those that make Magic, and those at the professional level of Magic. I mean, their company itself is named after a Magic deck, so that's pretty pretty telling right there. Okay, my opponent's playing a bit slowly. That's fine. This game could probably use a little more aggressive clock, just because it seems so rare for people to come near it. But I guess it's fine to not have my opponent, you know, to give my opponents plenty of time to think. All right. These trades are fine. My opponent has been leveling up very good creatures, so that's okay. But Technosmith will trade. Get the Delver out and buff. Even after the Buffett trade, so maybe I should have played the Technosmith in an empty lane. I'm not entirely sure. All right, so Savant is good. Likely with Ravager, but we'll see. But yeah, Savant is definitely a good card to get at 2.1. Could throw the buff on the Delver if it's still alive here. My opponent's at level 2 though, so is more likely to have things that can eat the Delver whole. Definitely not playing the prototype here either, since I'd much rather get this Savant trigger. Life Shaper Savant can give a buff to anything but itself. Okay. So I don't mind too much my opponent playing this Scypian Augmentation. Scypian Augmentation is fine, but I'm not... Even if you're leveling Scypian Augmentation... oh, okay, Scypian Augmentation was leveled off the Technosmith at player level 1. That makes sense. Okay, so I need 5 power for it. The deal is this. The 3 power buff, or the 3 buff, is not enough to keep the Ravager alive. So I think I'm just going to throw the champion out to eat the patrol and get the Savant buff, which is how it can eat the patrol. Doesn't leave the best body, but at least it leaves something. Delver and Warden are fine. I could maybe Meta Sight, but these have so much impact on the board that I think I'm just better off playing them. If my Savant is still alive, which is likely, there could be an argument for playing that as well. However, I'd definitely like to get the Warden on the board. Being able to kill that Savant is pretty huge, even if it's just an even trade. Okay, I don't care about that 3 damage a turn. But I do have to play Matrix Warden before combat. The difference between 5 and 8 toughness is not huge, so I will go ahead and throw this here. Get the Flame Shaper Savant off the board. Play my Delver where it's safe. I could finish off the Bruiser, but I'd much rather have a Delver with as much health as possible, because it can have a pretty big impact. Infiltrator would be nice here, but I may throw the Guardian in front of the Bruiser because it gives me the best trade. We'll see. There's basically a 0% chance that I play the Stasis Ward in this turn. Okay. Patrol is a pain, especially because my opponent seems to like going out of his or her way to buff it. if my opponent doesn't have something to throw in front of the Delver, that'll be pretty nice, actually. Here, the 3 damage I took did end up mattering. Okay, so my Delver can eat the Colossus and stay alive. Since we've seen both Colossus and Forge Guardian, it seems pretty much a home run to say that my opponent has jetpacks, which means we just want to make sure that we don't get too far behind on life or anything. I think Delver and Empty Lane is still the best strategy. Between Infiltrator and Guardian, I'd rather have Infiltrator leveled. 1110 versus 614. But keeping okay, let's see if Light Shield Patrol does get the buff. It's armor 3, so that's 13 toughness basically. -8, so it needs 5. Okay, so Infiltrator would be enough to kill. However, we'd be taking 2 5s here. Yeah, I think I'll just Guardian. That'd leave a 2/4 body. Better just to get the Infiltrator leveled. Losing the body is a bit worse, but definitely nice to have that creature left late, especially since it can have breakthrough, and with being able to bestow it with some extra attack means that it can help push that damage through if I need to. These Delvers continue to stay alive. My opponent can almost certainly eat this one up though, but it'll likely cost him a creature. Him or her. Yep. Loses a creature. Doesn't buff Patrol. Let's see if the opponent has something to do that. Probably tech. Okay, so loses something straight up to Battlejoy. To Delver, that's fine. Technosmith is nice here. Buff up Nexus Pilot. Play another in our long string of Delvers. Okay, these are some good creatures. Sadly, we cannot get a Savant trigger. However, you know, it's 2 very good creatures to get on board. We haven't been getting in a ton of damage. However, we have been playing just actively enough to keep our opponent on the defensive. Our opponent has been managing to pull out answers for everything we play, but we're keeping tempo in the game, which is very nice. We can lose tempo if we get a bad draw of like level 1s or something, but as long as we draw at least as well as our opponent, it seems like we'll keep tempo and not get behind. Still anybody's game, but it's definitely a preferable position to be in. And we've got a lot of Delvers leveled up, which are better if we have tempo, since we won't have to throw them in front of something before they get to grow. Growing with +6 at third level is pretty huge. Okay, Technosmith is a smart play. Again, getting some extra value. Luckily, getting the extra value immediately after leveling, so it won't come up for a while. The Highlander is another thing that just... Alright, it gets the bonus, so it does extra damage to the Delver, although it still will die. I think I'm going to use Matrix Warden to buff the Technosmith. Despite the fact that the Technosmith is not long for the world, it's going to get in a ton of extra damage, and this means that it must be answered and will very, very likely take something with it. So now we've got an increasing number of things on the board. Okay, I should have left that lane open for Nexus Pilot. That's what I was forgetting. Though this might not be the worst time for Aegis pulls, it's a little bit silly. Could actually be best off just playing Nexus Pilot off lane, despite my mistake. Sometimes you have to just own up to your mistake and play the card anyway, despite the fact that my immediate instinct was to not play it just because I can't play it where I wanted to have been able to. Not a great hand. Actually, with the Savant, Pilot may actually not be best, just because getting double Savant triggers may more than make up the difference. +5/+5 is really huge. So this is one of those characters who just wears significantly less top clothing as she levels, although she seems to get more skirt as she levels up. Interesting to see the redistribution of clothing. Okay, so if we play two... ouch, that was a good play. If we play two Uteran creatures, we can buff Matrix Warden enough to eat Savant. That's probably worth it just because it'll give us a very good Warden, or at least a very high attack Warden that has to be answered. So we'll fill up every lane. Our opponent will probably throw something in front of Warden and have an opportunity to throw something in front of Savant, but at least we get a lot of bodies out. These bodies may be good with Patriarch, depending on what we have to play here. All right, that's not the worst. Obviously, it'll trade on our turn, but at least our Savant gets to stay alive long enough to trade, and it does trade evenly. Savant, it's worth mentioning, cannot buff itself. Pardon me. Okay, the Bruiser buff availing of nothing. Throw a Patriarch out here. We'll get the buffs from Patriarch plus this. Gonna go ahead and let that trade happen so I can throw the Delver into the then empty lane. Got in some nice damage though. Yeah, now our opponent is really on the ropes. Yeah, okay. So we went 2-1 in this draft. It felt pretty good. This draft definitely wasn't quite as strong as I wanted. I would have liked to see more of the stronger, the War Chargers and such, but did well enough. It felt like it was a 2-1 deck, and it ended up getting 2-1, so that seemed about right. Let's see what we won. Soul Harvest. I really like Soul Harvest. Not entirely sure if it's the best thing or anything, but it's something that I definitely want to continue to play with. So now that I have a keeper, I think. So maybe I'll brew around it, play some fun deck with it for a while, see how I like it. All right, I'll see you all next time.